Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. My name's Chad Prickett. I'll get into that in just a minute. What we're going to hit on today, guys, is talk about goalkeeper development and what goalkeepers should focus on by age. One of my goals in this conversation is for you guys to leave having an idea of a couple things, whether you as a goalkeeper you want to improve on, or you as a parent something that you feel like your child can add to their game. So again, my name's Chad Prickett. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I work with Ohio Premier, which is it's an ECNL club. I'm the goalkeeper director there. I work with both the men and women's goalkeepers at Ohio Wesleyan University, which is just north of Columbus, Ohio. I also run Columbus Goalkeeper Academy. We've been doing that for about 5 years now. Right now, we're seeing close to 200 goalkeepers a week, which is pretty incredible. Then the last piece for me, I'm a proud board member of the United Goalkeeping Alliance, which we started back during COVID. Super excited to pass it off to somebody who, as a coach, I really look up to. One thing I'm very excited about on this call, like I said, I look up to Paul. I think he's a tremendous resource in our goalkeeper community. So I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say on this topic. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everybody. Paul Blodgett, Coach Blodge, people call me, from Jersey. I'm the owner of my own Paul Blodgett Goalkeeper Training School since about 2002. Had over 20 years the goalkeeper coach at Rutgers men's program, and then moved over to the College of New Jersey women's team in Division III. Was with them for 14 years. Great college experiences on both ends. Also the New Jersey Youth Soccer ODP director of goalkeeping for both boys and the girls. And I, too, am a very proud member of the board of directors for the United Goalkeeper Alliance, which has been, since its inception, has been giving great information out to goalkeepers and the goalkeeper coaches and the parents on all the different aspects of the position. So I'm excited about this topic as well, because I think sometimes there's a lot of confusion what should be taught and when. But I want everybody to understand as we progress through the night that there is a logical progression and development in goalkeepers by age, or age group, I should say, that should be adhered to. It's very important to try to master each progression as you get older, and that's the best way you're going to excel at the position.
And the last thing I'll say, guys, about the intro is, again, excited to have Paul on with me on this. He just came out with a book, which I was going to show you guys, that is all about developing goalkeepers. So again, we've got an expert here, so I'm pumped to get into this.
Cool.
So we broke this down into 3 different levels. So you have your youth level, which is roughly U8, U10, your junior level, and that's what we're looking, U12, U14, then our senior level with U16 through U18. Just a couple key focus points. So in our youth level, it's really about introduction and fun. Those are the 2 main things we're going to focus what we're doing around as a coach. And that's, for kids to be successful, we want them to be learning some of the basics and having a lot of fun. Then that junior level, we're looking, can us as a goalkeeper become a lot more well-rounded and really start to master some of the techniques. The last piece is the senior. This is when it comes down to results. So can we be consistent with our results? And then from a social standpoint, can we become a lot more of a leader and a coach on the field? Now, getting into a little bit more detail here. So with the youth, I'm going to hit this, guys. I'm going to hit through kind of what we typed about. I'm going to have Paul. He's going to get into some more of the details on this. So again, the goal for that U8 through U10, let's make sure our goalkeepers are having fun. And let's get comfortable with the basics in order to have success in training. And we're going to hit on what we mean by the basics. Limited and strategic topics addressed. Again, the things we're looking to address: have fun, have success, and have safety in mind and what we're working on. And then the last piece here is a lot of little games. Again, the kids have to stay engaged in order to have fun. The little games and competitions massive here. Paul, you got anything you want to add on that?
No, we can get right into the development checklist we have for the youth, U8, U10. This is the introduction part of becoming a goalkeeper. And it's always interesting to me why kids get into being a goalkeeper. Some do it because they're not good enough on the field, but they seem to have a certain aptitude about keeping the ball out of the back of a net, or getting their body in front of something, let's put it that way. But it's also a good time to introduce anybody into becoming, or at least what the goalkeeper position is all about, because it's so very misunderstood. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the younger kids don't get into it, because they don't understand it. So I think it's good to have a lot of kids try the position. I know some of the clubs I've worked with here in Jersey we'll take like a Saturday morning, and we'll invite kids, field players, 2-3 field players from each age group up for, let's say, age 8 to 10, and to come out on the Saturday morning and just give it a go and see what they think. Have some fun with it and see if they like it. Sometimes the kids come back, sometimes they don't, but at least you're being introduced into the position. So the ones that start taking it to the position a little bit, it's important for them to understand there's certain things that you have to learn to do at that age. Always keeping in mind, and I think this is extremely important, the injury factor of what can happen to these kids. So, the services have got to be easy. You can't be ripping balls at these kids. They're going to get fearful. They're going to put their hands up to try and block a ball, and they're going to end up breaking their wrist, which is called a buckle fracture, probably the most common injury for young kids. So you have to, you got to be smart about what you're doing. Chad brought up a good point at the beginning. It's all about having fun with the kids. If you want to get the kids engaged in something, make them have fun. Now, you can have them have fun and also start learning a little bit what the position is about. But that has a lot to do with the personality of the coach or the teacher, or if a parent even has to be thrown in there to help out. I mean, pretty much anybody that's a parent has already dealt with this age group. So you kind of know the ins and outs of what the kids are about. So they like to play. They don't like to have too many restrictions, and they definitely want to have fun. So with those things in mind, there are certain technical things that you got to make sure you cover. Well, the most important, I think, and Chad and I talked about this earlier, is trying to get the set position right for these kids. There's certain set positions, as you mature in the position in the game, you have different set positions for different parts of different types of shots at different distances. You don't want to deal with all that with a U8, U10-year-old. You want to give them a basic set position, something where their hands are somewhat close together, where their hands are in the middle of their body, and as a basic starting position. Instead of having their hands waving all over the place, out of control, have them be more settled. One of the major things with the set position is just that, getting settled before the shot. So that's a very important technical thing to work on immediately. Actually, it's one of the more important ones. Get the kids set before the shot. And then you got to start learning how to handle certain types of balls. Now, one of the biggest fears of kids is the balls going over their head. Well, first of all, at a U8 level, you shouldn't be in a goal anyway. You really don't start, in most cases, putting a goalkeeper in a goal until at least 9 years old, sometimes even 10. You put a U8 kid or U9 kid in a big goal, and it's very intimidating. So how do you try to make that goal smaller for them so they can enjoy it a little bit? Well, first of all, don't let them be so concerned about that big goal behind them. I'm always like put down 2 cones or maybe even like poles 2 yards apart. And that's all they have to defend. Let's see if they can defend a 2-yard goal and just let them go at it and have fun doing that. If it goes outside the poles and goes into goal, who cares? It's the 2-yard goal that we're concerned about them just trying to stop. This helps with their confidence. And basically, it's all footwork and getting the body behind the ball, and they will have success immediately. It's when you don't make the goals smaller, then they stay intimidated by the big size to go behind them, and they try to do things that they can't do and aren't able to do physically, and becomes more difficult for them to enjoy the position, gain confidence, and want to stay playing. So make it smaller, make them have success. Concentrate on all low ball type of catches, whether it's a 1-step collapse, anything straight at him, what we call the scoop or the basket catch. One of my big ones I like teaching is the front smother, where they collect the ball and they go right down onto their bellies. To me, that's one of the most important saves that you can teach them right away. And they can use that in any ball that's coming at them. And if actually the balls that hit at them very hard, this front smothers are very good save as long as hit right at them. They can absorb the catch and just fall down on top of the ball, and it becomes easier for them to handle. They should be learning to do stuff with their feet. 1-2 touch passing, kicking with laces and instep, just some of the basic stuff of being able to do things with their feet. Now, if they're coming from a team environment and they've been playing on the field, they should have some of these foot skills down already, which is massive in regard to their development. Because some of these kids go into goal because they can't play on the field. And that's one of the biggest mistakes they can make. They need to develop their foot skills as much as the other skills so that they can play with their feet. And that's going to make them a better goalkeeper down the road. Now you shift that into, go ahead, Chad.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you shift that into some footwork now. Footwork is a very important part of the technical development, because if you move your feet, your body's got to go. So keep the footwork very simple. Cover short distances, forward, backward, side to side. The shuffle step is a big one, a quick crossover, but forward and backward movements so they can stay balanced. Just that you can don't even throw cones in there. Just have them move in the different directions as quickly as they possibly can, then get set, then handle the ball. Or have them move very quickly around, then get set, and then handle the ball with their feet. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. It's very simple. Don't make it complicated. Just try to vary your approach as much as you possibly can, so they don't get bored with doing exactly the same thing every time. The creativity as a coach becomes very important here. Now we get into some of the social stuff. One of the big things I think that's important to teach at this age is how to communicate. And the kids have no idea what to say. They say goalie, they say keep, they say keeper. They don't even know how to ask for the ball. So what we used to do and what we still do is every time we want the ball played back to our foot, we make back to our feet, we make a very simple request. We say yes and the person's name. So if Chad and I are working together, we're 2 8-9-year-old kids playing, and our activity is to pass the ball back and forth to each other. Chad has the ball and I want it. I'm going to say, yes, Chad, and maybe even point to a foot I want it to, then he'll pass it. But he'll also say yes back to me as a form of communication. So if I ask for the ball, he's going to return communication to let me know that we have made a contact. Very simple. Okay. But it's something that you got to start doing at that age so it becomes natural for them. Now, let's say I just shot a ball at Chad and he made a save. Okay. Chad's job next after he makes a save is to distribute the ball or give it to one of his teammates. Simple communication again. Chad says, yes, Blodgett, before, and I say, yes, Chad, back. We have just communicated to each other, and then he'll roll the ball out to me or something like that. So if you make it as simple as that, and you make sure they adhere to that, all of a sudden becomes very second nature, and that's the basis for all their communication. I all the time hear people saying, our kids don't communicate. Well, I think because we're trying to make it too complex for these kids. They're 8-year-olds. Their attention spans are very short. So make it something simple and just help reinforce it when they should be saying it. and make sure they're both saying it back and forth to each other. It works. Okay, it works. Okay, foot skills. Okay, now there's difference between footwork and foot skills. Footwork is the movement of the feet, whether it's a diagonal movement, lateral movement, shuffle, quick forward, quick back. Foot skills are all the things that you do with your feet as far as like a field player would. First touch, second touch, being able to pass a ball with the inside of the foot. One of the big ones to start teaching this age is driven ball with laces, because if this is not taught at a younger age, you'll be surprised, or maybe not surprised, but you will see how many kids, when they get to be 13, 14 years old, can't drive a ball to a target. And the coaches will have a field player get in there and take the goal kick because they can kick it halfway up the field. Well, that's, to us, that's not acceptable. The kids should be taking their goal kicks. And as long as they're practicing it from a young age, learn how to kick early, then they should have no problem with it. But it's not always taught right away. So it's very important that these kids learn how to drive balls to targets. The other thing that Chad mentioned early is make games, have all sorts of little games. Tag, keep away, simple goalie wars, anything like that. It's just, the kids love that type of stuff, because you'll be surprised how competitive that they really are at the age of 8. And I have a game I call Shadow, which is you put 2 goalkeepers in, and then you have the rest of the group try to shoot on them. And everybody that I've ever taught that game to, that's what they want to play at the end of practice for about 10, 15 minutes, just to compete and have some fun. I think it's important in your training sessions to break it down. If you have like a 45-minute training session, you know, get them loose and warmed up, do some stuff with their feet, work on their communications, and then work on a certain type of catch, whether it's a front smother or something like that, and have them catch and get up and distribute the ball. But always end the session with some type of fun game. That way, the last thing in their head is fun, and they're looking forward to coming back the next time. Now, as a coach, it's important that you have energy, be positive. I'll tell you what, if being a good coach at this age group can make or break the kids who want to stay with a position. I've seen a lot of people want to try and help the kids out and try and coach them, but they don't understand how important to be positive, very uplifted, high energy, be happy yourselves and energetic. Just really present a good environment for these kids to be in, and let them know that it's okay to make mistakes, because that's the biggest problem with young kids. All of a sudden the ball goes in by them and now their heads go down. You got to start addressing that immediately. Let them know it's fine. It's okay. Hey, listen, everybody, all the best goalkeepers in the world have had the ball go between their legs at one point or another. So, so as a parent or as a coach, helping and teaching these kids, make sure you're always positive, create a good, happy environment, and make sure the kids are enjoying themselves, and you will have success. Chad, you want to add anything there?
I was going to say, just to put a bow on the items you hit on. So guys, from a social standpoint, what we see so often is that U13, U14, a coach complains, oh, XYZ goalkeeper doesn't communicate. These are 4 different items from the social standpoint that we're trying to get these goalkeepers at U8 through U10 to start doing, because they're not too hard and they can program them in to their vocabulary. They can do it consistently, and they grow in confidence from a social standpoint. Mm-hmm. Footwork, so that bottom left one. Parents, if you're working with one of your kids in the backyard that's a goalkeeper, one little thing that we do a lot is we start the goalkeeper out of position. So let's say they should be set right here for a shot. We start them over here, give them a yup or what have you. They do the footwork over, and then they get set. So that's where they can do your shuffle or your crossover to work on the footwork. From a technical standpoint, I want you to think the technical, that's the tools that they use. There's a note here that's a little bit wordy, but limited and strategic topics addressed. So these are the topics that I'm focused on from a technical standpoint with these U8 through U10 goalkeepers, because they're going to give them some good tools that are going to allow them to be successful today and also grow on and be very successful in the future. Any questions with the youth, the U8 through U10 age group? Any parents, kids have questions?
Chad, I
And I
have a
will,
question sent to me
yeah.
in the text. At what age would we as coaches start introducing cross steps to help basically not confuse players?
So I'll actually do this at U8 and U10. And this is where Blodgett and I might be a little bit different. So for me, like a shuffle is like a 2-foot adjustment or less. So really quick, just adjust over, boom, set again. I'll use a crossover, or I call it a sideways run. Like if you think I'm over by my near post, the ball gets passed across, I might do a little sideways run across to get adjusted for a potential shot. So I think these kids naturally are doing this already at the U8 through U10 if they have to travel over distance. And we just try to make them aware of it and let them know, hey, yeah, that's a good tool to use in that situation if you're traveling far.
I would agree with Chad on that. I would teach crossover step immediately. The sideways run, I also call it the sideways run. The difference is try to teach the kids that a shuffle is not as fast as a crossover run. So if you have to cover a very short distance laterally, a little quick shuffle, 2 shuffle steps is fine. But you got to get from point A to point B, and you got to get there with some haste. You got to run. Okay, so if they just get used to doing that and understand the difference between a shuffle over short distance and a crossover step run to a greater distance, I think it would really help them a lot. But teach it right away. Why not?
And
they love to run anyway, right?
Yeah. The last thing, guys, I'll say on this, we could have added a lot more things and gone into a lot more details, but we didn't want to absolutely bore the heck out of you. So, but yeah, if you run into questions, guys, just butt in and say something, or Eric will let us know in the chat. So the next group is the juniors. All right. So that's
Chad, I'm
your
gonna jump
U12.
in before you go.
Yep.
Give you out. Yeah. How do you teach when to come off the line and out into the box, or when to sit back? Or do they just have to get a simple feel with experience? Any simple advice that we can give them?
I think that's one. It's a little tough because the kid being fearful or personality could play a large role. But rule of thumb when the game's going on is the old imaginary, I've got a string tied for me to my center back to keep me engaged. Now, I think what that person's referring to is maybe a breakaway or a slipped in ball. And that's the thing, I think, from a technical standpoint and focusing on diving, that is going to help give the kid the confidence and also learn. So if you look at all this stuff right here, the exciting thing for these kids is they can learn every single training session and know that they came home better. So a kid that has, with breakaways at this age, will spend 3 or 4 sessions, easy. And it's going to take them a little bit to get the confidence in place and then, come close to executing the technique. And to be completely truthful, U8 through U10, I don't expect them to execute the technique coming out the right way, like almost hardly at all. If they're closing the angle at this age, I'm pretty happy. Mm-hmm. But I do think they have to have the confidence built in them before that's going to happen, which is going to be done in training.
Yeah, I agree completely with Chad there. The thing that bothers me is that when I travel around in my car on a Saturday morning and I'm watching a youth game and the ball's down at the other end and the goalkeeper's standing on their line with their hands on their hips, or picking up flowers, or, it's like, to me, it's a sad thing because the kid's not engaged with his team at all. So it's important for the kids to move at least be taught to move forward when a team is up, like Chad said, like there's a string attached to backs. And I also agree with him, said, if listen, breakaway situations, you're going to see what kid has courage naturally and what kid doesn't. Sometimes you can teach that, and other times it's just natural, but maybe not so much at this age group because they're just trying to learn everything else that's going on. So,
Yeah. So, all right, Blodgett, we got to pick this up a little bit. Eric said
Yeah, I
we got
see.
20 minutes. All right, so
Gotcha.
juniors, U12 through U14. This is a huge age group, guys, from a development standpoint.
Mhm.
The goal here is to become more well-rounded. So technical, tactical, physical, mental, and social. So 5 words, and we're going to hit on what that means a little bit to the goalkeeper. Learn how to translate skills to the game. So kind of what we were talking about before on that breakaway, that slipped in ball, closing out, like that younger age, I'm just happy if they're closing out. Now, can we transition, close out, going to my block, or close out, going to my spread, or close out one with hands? Then the last piece is master technical aspects of the position. So getting into this checklist, I'll take a handful of these, Blodgett, and I'll
Go
have
ahead.
you hop in.
Okay.
So the technical stuff, guys, it's all pretty similar. So I'd say at this point, I'd start to add crosses in. But the asterisk down here, we're really starting to try to perfect the above. And again, transition that to the game. All right. So that set position. At this age, if I ask a kid what their set position looks like, they should be able to show me no problem. And if I ask them little detailed questions, they should be able to answer that. Again, getting into your handling stuff, your diving, so on and so forth. They should have a good understanding by this standpoint and being able to explain it to me. From a social standpoint. So again, when we go back before social, we were hitting on some specific words to introduce them to social. Now we're presenting more of a bigger idea, and we have the words to those. But can we be more of a leader back there? Can we be coachable? So what I mean by coachable is, can I listen to the information the coach is giving me, but also, I know I didn't use this the right way, but can I start to coach my team? Communication, this is where it's got to get rocking. Start to build out the team vocabulary. All right. So for me, just a short little story. I had a right back in high school, and all I had to do is say his name. He already knew what I wanted. So that took multiple years to get there. So what I mean by build out your team's vocabulary is what I say is not going to be exactly like Blodgett versus this person versus that person. It's going to be very similar, but build out that team's vocabulary. I'll hit on one more, which is physical. So if you look here, I put athletic, explosive, quick, agile. A big one, guys, in there is coordination. At this age, they're growing like weeds. So for me, a little bit of the plyometric stuff, single leg work, and all that stuff, it's huge. Even your footwork stuff that we mentioned before, just to get their coordination and body under control. Blodgett, you want to get into tactical?
Yeah, this is, by the way, at this age group here, this is where you got to become serious. This is where you start to decide, I want to be a goalkeeper. I want to learn. I want to perfect. I want to be put into situations where I have to start making decisions, which is what the tactical game is all about. The tactical game is being able to understand what's going on in front of you, reading what the breakdowns are coming, and trying to correct those breakdowns so they don't even result in a shot on goal. I've always been a believer in the fact that it's very difficult for any goalkeeper, young goalkeeper, to start getting involved tactically at a higher level if they can't technically get the job done. If a goalkeeper is going up, say a cross comes in, if a goalkeeper is going up trying to say, well, what leg do I put up? How's my hand supposed to be? Well, that's what they're thinking about when they're going up into the crossing situation instead of reading the flight of the ball, maybe understanding what the wind is doing, understanding the pressure that's coming at them, what they're going to have to do in a split-second decision. So that's why when you get into this age group, you really have to work your technique and perfect it. Slow things down. What I call mastering technique is is mastering the finish of your catches. Okay. If you are correctly mastering the finish of all your catches, then you pretty much understand what the technique is about. Now you start applying these techniques into game situations. So the games are a little more involved now. It's still fun. Okay. You still want to make fun because you want the kids to compete, enjoy themselves, but now they have more of a purpose. So you have to start understanding what's going on in front of you, what to do in certain situations like set plays, how to organize your defense so that it limits a chance on goals, positioning from the ball lines, how to get out for 1v1s, when to go, when to stay, and starting to organize the things around you. And this takes a little bit more concentration on a coaching point of view, because you really have to help the kids learn the game. The problem I have with some of these young keepers, they want to be goalkeepers because they don't want to play up on the field. Well, guess what? It hurts them because they don't learn the game that way. Another problem at this age group is the kids don't watch the game enough on TV. To me, if you're going to be a goalkeeper, I would watch every professional game I could or college game on TV so that I could at least understand what it looks like, what it's supposed to be. And this brings in another point, which is difficult for us as goalkeeper coaches because of the setups with clubs and everything else. You got to have an 18-yard box for these kids to train in. You're trying to put kids, we're always told, go off to the side and do your training over there. Now all of a sudden you got to get inside the game situation, and you haven't been training around the 18-yard box, so you can't get used to how to use the lines in the 18 to help you in positioning and figuring things out. So these factors are got to start coming into play now. These kids want to start learning to be what it's like to be a goalkeeper. They want to start making this as their position. But now we have to offer them all the things that they need, all the tools that they need to succeed. That includes proper technique and proper situations. That means giving them proper support, helping them communicate, become leaders, let the personality show, teach them the game. Okay, teach them the game. Because if they don't get it now, when they jump into the senior part of everything, then they're going to be behind. And sometimes these kids are talented, but they don't understand the tactical applications. And that's some part that they really have to learn if they want to succeed at a different level.
The last piece, guys, I'll hit on just real quickly, some of the mental stuff. So for me, a winner's mentality, like, what does that mean? So we know emotional control. All right. So emotional control, not getting too high, too low. For me, with the kids, I always talk about it's a process. What Blodgett said earlier, we're all going to let balls go in between our legs. Who cares? Learn from it. We know, check that off. That's something that's supposed to happen. Move on. Brave and courage. So brave and courage and winner's mentality. That's something I want, when I'm coaching these kids, I want to start pushing on them a little bit. All right. Like, you can make big saves, and then I'm going to give them love when they make that big save. Then they want to do it again. They want to do it again. So just like for all the parents on here, we have the ability to influence who our kids are. I do think this is something that parents could, help push these kids on, like, hey, be brave, be courageous. If you make a mistake, part of the process. I want you to have that winner mentality. You're ready to make the big save. You're ready to come claim that cross in the wet weather where you're not feeling confident, So mental, we want to push them and start pushing them to who they want to be in the goalkeeper in the future.
Yeah, Chad is hitting on something I think is extremely important, is let the kids go. Let them go and don't restrict them. They will figure out themselves what works and what doesn't work. That's how you get better. If you're trying for something and it doesn't work and you make mistake after mistake doing the same thing all the time, well, they'll realize it. If not, you can help them realize it and say, okay, listen, try something different. There's no one way really to do everything in this game, in this position. The only thing we can do as coaches is give you the different tools for different situations that are going to happen. And then you have to figure out which one works best for you. Because in a 1v1 situation, some kid might be really quick at closing down the ball. And therefore, their choices might be different than somebody who's not as quick. Both can be successful if both have the right tools according to the right situation. So it's important as parents to this is a part I think it needs to be worked a little bit more. Parents need to understand the position more than they do. So that, let's say in the ride home, the kid had a bad game. Okay, instead of having both the parent and the player, you know, the pair is sulking all the way home, and the parent doesn't really know what to say. Well, the parents got to educate themselves at more position, so on the way home they can discuss it in a positive way. Because the problem we have as coaches, not enough people understand the position, so therefore they don't know how to support the kids in when they make mistakes. It's a more of a negative environment than it is a positive environment. You cannot bring negativity into goalkeeper position at all, because all it takes is a good negative point. The kid head goes down, and you try and bring a kid up who's lost their confidence. It can be done, but it's not to everybody, and it's a very difficult thing to do. So you need to give them positive support.
Eric, can you send me a recording of that last little bit?
Yeah,
I send that to some coaches.
I just noted that myself. And I'm gonna throw a question that was from the text, and I'm gonna answer it too. I'm gonna use Blodgett's answer right there. If you're at your 18, like basically when do you attack and when do you go back? And I'm just gonna say what Blodgett said. Use experience. There are gonna be many times you do both of those and they're both wrong. You're gonna make decisions in those situations and mess them up, and you're gonna make great decisions in those situations as well. Experience, but from a coaching standpoint, positive reinforcement.
Hey, sometimes you might make the wrong decision. They kick it right at you too. You know,
Yeah, true.
If you send us a video, we could give you a true black and white answer. So get into the seniors, guys. And I put this picture here because I knew by this point, Blodgett was going to talk about finishing the catch. Blodgett, what do you think of that picture of Amanda right there? Do you like that?
Hold on, I'm trying to see where.
Well,
I don't see the picture.
I'll send it to you later. So,
okay.
Guys, seniors. So this is our U16 to U18. Now it's about consistent performance. That's what we care about. Consistent performance. All right. So on top of that, the details here, this is where it starts to get like kind of heavy and really kind of fun. From a social standpoint, can we lead and orchestrate our team back there? There's a P word I'm going to bring up here in a little bit that I think is so important. From a tactical standpoint, we got to understand the game, manage the game and teammates appropriately being a key word. Then from a physical standpoint, we started getting into it in that last group. Like, look, if you want to be a stud, if not already, you need to be getting after it in the weight room and the SAQ. If you're trying to be one of the high level goalkeepers. Now, getting into kind of the development checklist, guys. Again, from a technical standpoint, here's what I'll tell you. In here, I'd add a lot more of a focus on crosses again, without nerding out too much. Earlier on, heavy focus on breakaways. What the data says is the younger kids are going to see a lot more breakaways. As they get older here, it's going to be flighted balls in. So again, what Blodgett said in that last level there is they can't be thinking about stuff during crosses and all that. So technically, they have to be very, very sound. So for me, from a technical standpoint, it's fine tuning maybe those little details, or I'll come like bugaboos that they haven't got over yet, where it's like, come on, let's get this ingrained. Social, the highlighted word. So be a leader, be that coach on the field. So for me, I took like, if it came into my half, that's my half. Anything that happens in my half goes through me. So I'm communicating, making sure things are organized in my half. again, with communication, we got to be effective. All right. So quick story. I had a center midfielder on my club team that went and played Ohio State. Kid was a stud, both feet, took free kicks with both feet. Just a great player. His name was Taylor. If I talked to Taylor the way I talked to one of my center backs, Taylor would shut down, not listen to me the rest of the game. So when I say be effective with Taylor, I say, hey, Taylor, number 7 in the midfield's killing us. Can you help out? You know, he's like, oh, I can be your savior, right? Whereas if it's my center back, I'm John, you need to stick him. You know, I'm getting into him. So when I say effective, the way that you're delivering your message is so important. Accountable. So we got to hold our teammates accountable. Then we got to be accountable. So when we make that bad mistake or that goal, raise my hand. That's my bad, guys. And again, the accountable part on the backside is I have to continue to communicate because that's what helps my team. Then the P word I spoke about is presence. So for me, presence, to sum it up, it's if you want to play in college, when a coach walks up to your field to potentially recruit you and see you on the field for the first time, the first thing I think they're going to notice is your presence. And I think it's a combination of body language mixed in with your social. So does the person look confident? Are they communicating, organizing, and being a leader? Presence at this age, it's a separator. And again, I think it's that body language, which reflects confidence, and then that communication, being the coach on the field. Blodgett, do you want to hit on some of the tactical stuff?
Yeah. By the way, I did pull a picture up. It's Amanda, was it? Is that her name, Amanda?
Yeah.
That is about as perfect of a catch, of a contour catch. I also call it the diamond catch, as you'll get. Now, one thing I do like, the gentleman off to the right, okay, whenever I always say to my goalkeepers, start in an athletic position, which the gentleman on the right is. He's in a good athletic starting position, and finish in an athletic position, which Amanda has got a perfect finishing athletic position. If you train that sequence where the gentleman is on the right in the set to finishing a diamond contour catch like Amanda is doing, she's got it. Okay, she's got that down. So it's a combination of the one on the right progressing to the finishing catch on the left. If you can do that with all the different catches in the goalkeeper's repertoire, then you got something going on. That's a very good picture. Very good picture,
Now,
Chad.
To support what you're saying on how the technical needs to be ingrained at that second level, like if you look, Amanda's at Penn State. So for her to start next year, she's got to beat out a national team kid. AJ is a freshman at Louisville. So like these kids, they check the technical piece off on a strong majority of things, because at this last level here, it's that game management, the communication, the decision making, which is massive. Tactical, Blodgett, I've got on here game management. So like time score, understanding mismatches or where we want to push the ball to, back line management, etc. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. This is the beauty of the game. To me, the tactical aspect, once you learn the game and how to manage the game and how to control things in front of you, you have reached a very high level as a goalkeeper. I used to do a match analysis, a lot of my goalkeepers. I would go to the games and I would watch them, how they ran the game, why goals were given up, what they did well, etc. One of the biggest problems I noticed is that the kids did not organize their back line. They did not, there were gaps. It was like the outside backs were deeper than the center backs. It was just mismanaged. It was not organized. Coming from Rutgers, when Bob Riasso was a defensive master. And for close to 2 decades, we were one of the best defensive teams in the country, as well as had good goalkeeping. And those guys would throw each other and sell each other for the rest of them. They became a family back there. So I always try, especially at this age, I try and get the goalkeepers to create a family. Make sure that you are supporting the people in front of you, organizing them, and helping them so things don't break down. I think one of the problems comes down is to communication. How do you communicate? How do you organize this? Well, a lot of these kids will start demanding things from their center backs or from their back four, but very rarely do they compliment them on what they're doing. It's one of the secrets of communication, especially when you're into a new group. If somebody does something well for you in front of you, congratulate them. Nice job, great header, Joe. You know, if they throw their body in front of a ball and stop a shot, I go up and give them a hug or something. You know, you say, that's what we need. You never say as a goalkeeper, this is what I need you to do. You always say, this is what we need to do to be a better defensive team. So sometimes when it comes down to communication to goalkeeper, as long as they understand it's not I, because that'll push people away. It's all about we. Let's do this together. And that's one of the reasons why we were such an incredible defensive team at Rutgers for close to 2 decades, because the goalkeeper, the back four, and then you bring in the defensive midfield, they would just die for each other out there. And they actually started thriving off the fact that they didn't give up shots. So that's what the tactical comes in, by a goalkeeper understanding what's going on in front of them, helping their team just by moving a little bit here or there, communicating properly, and then rewarding them when they do something correctly. And when you do that, you're going to build such a great family back there that you'll have a lot of success. This is one of the problems I see with ODP program, because in Jersey, we only get together maybe 10 times a year. Well, a lot of cases, the back four, because it changes a lot in each training session, don't even know who the goalkeeper's name is. The goalkeepers don't know who the back four are. So it gets broken down all the time. So that's one of the big things we try to work on, is get the family working and get organized and work together. So that's a major tactical aspect. The other thing I just want to say also before what Chad has said is about presence. Presence is massive. You step on the field, you don't have to be 6'3". You step on the field, presence is your movement. Presence is how you handle yourself, how you walk, how you talk, and how you run the show. And look at Adelaide Gay. Adelaide Gay was 5'5", won a national championship at UNC. Is still playing. I don't know if she's still not, maybe she just retired, but she was played for forever over in Scandinavia. 5'5". Okay. Matter of fact, Anson Dorrance said to her, "You're too small." And she said, "Well, just let me be the training goalkeeper." By the time she was a senior, Anson Dorrance had a senior leadership team. She was the number 2. I think they had a U20 national team goalkeeper as their number 1. Anson Dorrance's leadership senior group went to him and said, "We want Adelaide as our goalkeeper." In October, won a national championship. 5'5". So she had presence. And so you can tell by at that level, the highest level in Division I ball, she had moxie, athleticism, personality. She had the whole package, and everybody loved her so much they would do anything for her, and they wound up winning a national championship. So there's a lot going on that can be done if you just work hard at it and perfect your craft.
So real quick, physical guys, I added strong in from the last one. So AJ, this guy right back here, he's a perfect example. His last year and a half, I think he put on 20 pounds, 25 pounds. He went from a scrawny looking little thing into really committing to his body. It made a huge difference. For mental, again, I think we have winner mentality, emotional control, being brave, having courage. I think leadership, there's the mentality piece to that. And I think the kids have to practice it to develop the mentality piece of that. Then being resilient. Again, this is something that I think is really tough for these kids, is being a leader. They think they have to do everything right. And this is where resilience comes in. Again, we're going to make mistakes. It's part of the process, right? Keep doing what you know you're supposed to do. I can't tell you how often we see a kid that they let in a bad goal, so then they don't think they should be communicating and telling players what to do because they don't feel as valuable because they made that mistake. Do what you're supposed to do. Do what you're supposed to do. Communicate, organize, be resilient. You know, that happened, learn from it, move on, do what you're supposed to do. Guys, just to wrap up here, I just want to share.
Chad, before you wrap up, I have
Yep.
about 4 or 5 questions in the chat function.
Okay.
Perfect. So guys, real quick, if you want, grab our information. This is Paul, both Paul and I's phone number, email, Instagram, all that exciting stuff. If you can take a picture, then I'm gonna quit sharing my screen and we'll chat and get everybody out of here. Leave it up for 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's chat.
All right, I have questions here. First one is, how do you handle a coach or club that isn't offering first team or high level opportunities? What can be done to break through and or convince a coach to take a chance on a player when another GK is favored in that position?
In that case, it happens all the time. Part of the problem with the position, it can get a little political. You can have a kid that's come up, or the coaches of many different situations, a friend of the parents. The kid has come up through the coach for many, many years. The whole idea is that you, as a goalkeeper, is trying to break into that situation, you just got to go to work every single day. And I'll give a quick story. John Conway, who was my second All-American at Rutgers, played professionally at San Jose and then Houston before he went to Red Bull and then to Toronto. Got behind Onstead, I think it was, when he was in San Jose, a Canadian national team goalkeeper who got hot and won a championship. Then he went to Houston and got behind Joe Cannon, who happened to take the starting job, got hot, and won a championship. So I asked John, I said, how do you handle being a number 2 all the time? You know, and he told me, he said, work hard every day. Anytime there's a scrimmage, anytime there was a friendly, anytime that I had a chance to get in the goal with the team, I wanted to show the coaches that I was ready. And he just kept doing that and kept doing that. And eventually he got a shot and started for the Red Bull and then started for Toronto. They ended up being the goalkeeper coach for Toronto FC for years. So you're going to have situations where sometimes you'll have 2 goalkeepers so close to each other that they'll share time. Some coaches like that mentality, some don't. Some going to have one because maybe the kid, for some reason, it just comes across better. It's a very difficult situation, but you can't give up. If you're in that situation because you chose to be there, then you have to keep working hard. Every chance you get in goal, it's your chance to show what you can do. And is to be a leader, be resilient, do all those things that we're just talking about. If you're in a club environment and that keeps happening and the goalkeeper is not happy, okay, then maybe it's time to look for a different club. Now, I know today's environment in colleges, it's going to change a lot because of the transfer portal and everything else, which is a kind of good and a bad thing maybe. But it's all about coming down and taking a challenge. Am I going to take the challenge and show that I can beat this kid out? Or am I just doing the best I can and I just can't get there? Those are factors you got to take into consideration. And you basically just got to keep working hard. Just keep working hard.
My short thought on this, and I have a little bit of maybe a meathead thought process on this. I'm really big on no excuse mentality, right? It's super easy for all of us to find excuses, even if it's 100% not fair. I'm going to say, okay, that's not fair. Boom, I'm moving on. All right. Now, to beat that other person out, my mentality is I've got to be 25% better than them. If I can work to be 25% better than them, I take that decision-making out of that coach's hand. And I think the story Paul said earlier about Adeline Gay is a perfect example. Because if that coach decides not to play me and everyone's like, yo, like he loses the team then. So if you don't leave that situation, that's my mentality. Like, we know what the deal is, no excuses. We got to be 25% better. And I've seen that happen a couple of times, and it turns into a heck of a story. You got any more, Eric?
I do. So the final two questions I have here, and please feel free to add questions if you have them. Can we do strength training with weight before 16 years old?
The science has changed completely on that. Back when I was in school, it said wait till 8th grade. Now it's like, there's like 4-year-olds doing stuff. What I'll tell you though is, if you look at me, I'm not like a strength coach or anything. So I would talk to somebody that knows more than me. From my experience, guys, like getting into that 10 through 12 age group, it's your SAQ stuff. You don't need too much weight, because a lot of those kids, they're growing so much that the coordination, the balance, like those things that are not like the most attractive words are the things that are really important. Then if I want to make it harder to build muscle, can I add weight? Yes. Or I can focus on single leg stuff. The single leg stuff, I mean, yeah, like that'll get them.
That's good. I also think that when your bones start growing, you got to do something to keep your muscles kind of tagging along. You can do a lot of stuff without weights, but then when you start into weights, what you got to understand, I think, is that develop overall body strength, which is needed, but concentrate on core strength and explosive power, because we need to be strong, fast, and powerful over 4 yards.
While being agile and flexible.
Yeah, and agile. Yeah.
and good looking, right, Paul?
Oh, of course. Well, that's a given. Yeah. That's a given. Yeah. And but if you work on those types of things of core strength, explosive power, overall body strength, then you should be fine. You don't want to get too bulked up to a point, and you got to maintain your flexibility, by the way. Okay, you get too bulked up and you lose your flexibility, then you're not going to be able to play the position as well.
I love the CrossFit stuff. I know, like, you talk to whoever, they're not going to like that. I love that stuff. But yeah. Anything else, Eric?
Yeah, last question in the chat. And again, please feel free to add to it, everybody. Interesting question here. Definitely interested in your perspectives. Any advice on how to handle it when a strong field player talks over the GK and the team listens to the other person? And when the GK coach is overruled by the team coach? In general, when different strategies are in play, what's the best move for the GK to make? You want me to repeat?
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. I'll break this down into 3 sections. Any advice on how to handle it when a strong field player talks over the GK and the team begins to or is listening to the other person over the GK?
Who's the captain? Is the field player the captain, or is the GK the captain? That could be.
Let's play it out. Let's play it
out.
If that person is the captain, what do you think?
The field player is?
In this situation, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one. I've always been a believer of the fact that the goalkeeper has the best view of everything back there. As long as the goalkeeper has done their due diligence of learning to game, mastering their techniques, performing at a high level, being a leader, having good communication skills, then they can stand up to something like that. If the goalkeeper isn't strong in all those fields and the other player is more dominant, okay, it becomes maybe a little survival of the fittest thing. But that goalkeeper's got to learn how to develop an association with that person. Instead of competing against them, what can we do together to make this whole thing work better? That's the way I would approach it. And then all of a sudden, instead of a competition, like it's me against you, it's all of a sudden, hey, we're both doing this and we're being really successful at it. Let's keep building on this. And that'll be, that becomes almost infectious throughout the team. So that's the kind of way I would do it. You have to be smart. Sometimes it's going to come to a point where, all right, Chad and I are going at it. And I said, okay, Chad, I'm coming after you, man. Okay. And Chad said, no, you're not. I'm not going to give up. But after a while, it almost be like two people butting their heads together. Well, why not join forces and see what we can get together, what we can do together to make this thing work? Maybe that's one way of approaching it.
Paul, one of the things, like for me, first of all, this for your child, this is going to be a great opportunity for them to learn a tough social process. And I think it's a great opportunity for your child, and it's great that you're at home able to help them during this process. So I think that part's great. Now, for me, one of the things that Paul hit on earlier was when they do something good, when one of your teammates do something good, is showing them love. I remember firsthand how many of my players that impact and how much that it changed their ability to listen. That's something I try to do. Then also just trying to have that little conversation, hey, you're saying this is what I think, why are you thinking that, and maybe that doesn't work, but I would try those things. Now for me, the piece about the team coach and the goalkeeper coach and the team coach overriding, unfortunately what I'll tell you is across this country, that's overall the norm. And I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it because most of the coaches, unfortunately, look, there's no education in U.S. soccer for any of these coaches about goalkeeping. There's none. Like U.S. soccer, so like I don't think a lot of these coaches are educated the way that they could, and it's not necessarily their fault. So that puts everybody in a tough situation, including your kid, which stinks. And I don't know. I don't know what to do there. I think
Let me
I've
flip
butted
this.
heads.
Let me jump in and flip this. Paul and Chad, you're telling your goalkeepers to do certain things. They're coming back to you after the weekend saying, Coach, my head coach is telling me to do something totally different than what you're telling me. What do you do as the goalkeeping director?
Well, you got to have an honest conversation with the coach. Okay. And to me, first of all, you always back your goalkeeper. I'm sorry. I mean, I've got into some really heavy confrontations with the coaching staff in my past, but I always stuck up for my goalkeepers, always. So guess what? People knew if they came and they played for me as their goalkeeper coach, wherever I was, that I was always going to have their back. And that seemed to carry a lot of weight. And it seemed to kind of help smooth over certain situations. But like Jan says, the head coach says, this is it. Guess what? That's it. And I've many situations the head coach would have said, goalkeeper makes a mistake. Who's they for to look at first? We go goalkeeper coach. And they start saying, what the hell are they doing out there? What are you doing with this kid? So it's it's their show, right? It's the head coach's show. And you just got to deal with it sometimes, but as long as you back your goalkeepers so they know they're not going to be alone. And then I think it'll all turn out somehow in the good in the end.
Chad, how about yourself, man?
I've been with my club for 15 years, so I think the coaches know if they're giving that information to a goalkeeper. I think a lot of them know it's going to take a lot of courage for them to do that in the first place, because they know I'm going to be knocking on their door. What I'll say is this, though, is I'm far from right all the time, so I'm open to hear their thoughts and opinions. What they're telling the kids, why they're telling the kids. Unfortunately, I don't get to see a lot of the games, so I'm open to it. I would like to see video, though, so I can have a true, honest, talk with the kid or talk with the coach on what should be done where. You know, and it's tough. I mean, and that's one of the landscapes. Like, look, that's why social is so important, and the stuff we're talking about is because we're stuck in the middle being a goalkeeper. You know, we have someone who specializes in it and a goalkeeper coach, and then we have a team coach, which again, like some of them, I mean, just being honest, are horrible. You know, and some of them are good. But you know, I shake my head though, because like if you look here at Columbus, Ohio State, Brian Mazanoff played in the World Cup. I think he was the captain for the US team. And he openly admits, hey, I don't know much about goalkeeping, so the goalkeeper coach is going to do your review. You know, so a guy that was a US captain that played in the World Cup, that humility, first of all, I respect, but he recognizes like, look, even though I played at the biggest tournament you could ever play in the world, that's not what I do, you know? So, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Guys, take 30, 45 seconds each. You final words. Thank you for everything. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I just like to say that from the start, understand that it's a process, and it's a long process. I always say that goalkeeping is a time-honored position. It takes a long time to master it. That's why some of the best goalkeepers in history have been 30 to 40 years old and older. Gigi Buffon, for example. Okay. So if you learn your lessons along the way and you understand the process and understand that you're going to make mistakes, there's a lot to learn. The game is ever changing. If you just do everything in stride and do your due diligence and learn your lessons and do what you're supposed to do to the best of your ability, then you're going to have a good career. The whole idea too is that parents and everybody here on this call that understand, not everybody is going to be a D1 keeper. You know, not everybody is going to be a pro. So I always tell kids, I don't care what level you're going to play at. I really don't. I just want you to be the best that you're going to be. I'm going to help you learn to use your skills and your ability, whatever level that is, so you can enjoy the game. You can enjoy playing it, whatever level that's going to be. So if everybody keeps that in mind and doesn't think their son or daughter is going to be, you know, the best thing to come along in the position, then I think the experience for everybody is going to be better.
And for me, guys, I'm simple. I just want to thank everybody for their time tonight. The one thing that could really help me is in that presentation today, if there's things that you would like to know more on or information that you feel we've missed or what have you, please text me, email me. I've got a whole project where I'm looking to build up the whole development pathway with checklists and all this. This was a very small piece because I did not want your guys's, I didn't want you to fall asleep at whatever time it is, 9:40. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. Hopefully we will see you guys on the next one.